Okay, so when you first read the script, and I assume under secrecy and penalty with the Secret Service,
Yes.
what was your initial reaction to your character?
I initially kind of connected with her pain in a weird way because I had, her anger and her wrath really comes from a place of being deeply disappointed in her world. And at the time, I could kind of connect with that because there was a lot of things that were happening that made me really mad about what was going on in the world. And ironically, through her, I learned how to make better peace with myself and the world.
Well, and what I love, the character, so that helped you as an actress, having such a grounded emotional character, let you kind of play in the fantasy world a little, because you have that grounded reality base?
Yeah, I mean, everything in the script, everything in any James Cameron script is absolutely thought through and makes total sense and is totally heart-centered. And I think that's the beauty of this film, is that as magnificent as the visual effects are, it really is driven by the heart and the human condition. So yeah, it's grounded in that.
And obviously, the movie has a lot of special effects, but you're also interacting with actors. Is that something really important for you? Like, it wasn't just the visual effect; you got to actually interact with co-stars and experience the emotionality of the character.
Yeah, I mean, interact with co-stars and not just co-stars, but real masters of their craft. And I think that Jim, as an actor's director, is just dream of dreams. And then everybody is incredibly skilled and really soulful and really supportive and really connected and very intentional and imaginative. And so there's not enough beautiful words that I can use to describe that experience. Yeah.
All right, so you finally see the film.
Yeah.
What scene grabbed you emotionally? Like your performance. What did you see? Like, oh my God, I can't believe how this turned out. How beautiful it was, or something that really struck you.
Well, I think the moment that I'd kind of forgotten shooting, and then I saw it, and it really shocked me, was the moment when Quaritch and the whole sort of team come and arm the Ash. And it's that moment after where you're at scene and they come and they give all these weapons, and you see, and it really shocked me because it made it, for the first time, I was like, oh my God, that's happened over and over again in our world, and it's happening today, and it's, one of the great tragedies.
All right, so Spider had a great journey, really great emotional arc in this, even dark. What was your initial reaction when you first read the script and exploring your character's emotional journey?
I mean, I was just shocked the first time that I read it. I think I'm just happy that he kind of has so much ups and downs, and I feel like he was well established in Wavewater, but Fire and Ash, we really got to explore his emotional journey, his arcs, and almost dying a couple times. Like, it was really cool.
That scene really grabbed me when you were about to be murdered by your father,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
What was the process of working in that scene and collaborating with your actors to kind of capture that intense and very deep emotional moment?
I mean, that was one of my screen test auditions, and I did it with Sam Worthington, and we just kind of did that scene so many times to the point where I knew all the beats and I knew, what to do, and I was very familiar with it. And Sam is such a good and intense, in a good way, actor that, he made it easy. He made it feel real.
Now, we talked about the emotionality.
Yeah.
You have a lot of fun action sequences, too.
Oh, yeah.
So you're balanced. As an actor, that must be great, doing the emotional. How fun was actually the Wind Trader scene, starting with that? Fun was that?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's one of my favorite sequences is the Wind Trader scenes.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love, the giant, crossbow things. I love the time that I got to shoot the Ash Warrior. I got to actually use my bow and arrow skills. So, yeah, I would say that's probably my favorite.
And at the end of the film, how do you feel about your emotional arc, where your character ended at the end of the film?
I think it was such a good time for him to kind of chillax and be accepted a little bit, and I think it was so nice to finally have him. That's really the only thing he ever wanted, was to be accepted, and he was, and I'm glad that kind of ended on that note. But 4 and 5, it's gonna get crazy. So.
So when you first read the script, what was your gut reaction to your character's journey for this film?
My gut reaction was like, oh my God, I wish I could read this again, but I know it's going to be taken away and I'll never see it because it's very top secret. But I mean, those table reads, reading the beautiful scripts of The Way of Water and Fire and Ash, and then reading them together with my whole cast and crew was just kind of surreal, and it's a core memory for me. I can still see it in my head, and I remember being just eager to jump into Took and jump into all of these experiences and do my best with everybody. Yeah.
What I liked about the film, we'll get into the action in a moment,
Yeah.
there's real character trauma in this movie. There's real dark thing, and it makes it very great. Does that help you as an actress, knowing that you're dealing with real emotional issues in this wonderful world?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I love the way you put that, like, real issues in this wonderful world, because that's truly what it is. And like, even though from The Way of Water and Fire and Ash, not much time has passed, and yet these characters have gone through so much. And my character Took, I mean, she's just a whole different person. She's gone through things no one should ever have to go through, and she's been a child in war. And I think her dealing with that, but still also being a child and having her own personality of covering things up with her positivity and not knowing how to process things, not even being given time to process things because things get complicated so quickly. I think it's an interesting thing to explore, and was just like so juicy as an actor. Yeah.
Now, also, you have some fun action scenes.
We have really fun
So how
activities.
fun? What was your fun? What was one like I really enjoyed playing this scene the most?
Yeah, I mean, it was so much fun to get to like the filming of the action scenes, because we trained for 3 months before filming and then trained every day for filming. And then so, yeah, I mean, my favorite one was actually Fire and Ash. And it was really cool finally seeing that one on screen after all this time. We had like, it was a whole sequence. We were doing stuff on land, in the water, and like big fans, like, and we're like trying to get through to AWA. It's Curie, Spider, Took, and Took like kind of comes in to save the day, and like it was an epic one to shoot together, and it's like emotional and physical. It was just like one of the most juicy things you can get into.
All right, so Avatar, Fire and Ash, you have so many different worlds to create. Let's start the Fire Ash people. In fact, what were the challenges of kind of creating a world where they can breathe in? Then, of course, later you got to blow it up. But starting with creating a world for them.
Well, that's the whole fun with Avatar. We get to design the pretty stuff and then blow it up. And so what was so much fun about the Ash people is that we got to create the anti-Na'vi. Because everyone was like harmonious with nature and very noble. And we're like, okay, let's do the fun guys, the bad fun guys that just destroy everything, are completely anti-AWAP, they're raiders, they're violent, they take Kurus and have all these skull totems. So it was just fun to lean into the dark side stuff and look at every single piece of bone and skull reference we can find with art, and kind of put on my 13-year-old boy hat and like watching Conan and stuff, right? And so and just really lean into that about the intimidation, because the whole thing is resilience, and we intentionally. It was in the script, but it made sense design-wise to put them in a burnt-out home tree to show that that was their home. It tells their story, and it emphasizes that they're resilient. Like, no, we're not leaving. This is our way of life. We've adapted to this, and so it's a lot. Anytime you can tell story with design, then that's our goal, right? And so that was hugely beneficial. And then of course our other big clan were the Wind Traders.
Right. Yeah.
And that was my favorite thing to design. Just because just the romance of the gondola in the sky, these backlit huge medusoids at sunset. And besides being a striking visual, it was a massive challenge to figure all that out, because we had to design it in a system where there's the gondola, there's the medusoid, there's the wind ray pulling it. So it was a very complicated system that was, it took a lot of design and was all worked out. All that rigging that attached to the vanes to move it. I'm sure the Weta guys were telling you the same thing. Yeah. We worked it all out. And so much so where we had a manual on stage for Jim, so that the background performers knew what to do, what lines to pull out, what lines to let out based on what action we're doing. So, it was, and what was fun is because we were doing 2 and 3 together, we were designing the Mech Hyena, the Reef People, the Wind Traders, and the Ash People all at the same time, which is a monumental undertaking. But it was great because we got to carve out design real estate for each of them. So we sort of knew what we were doing, had no overlap. We were able to keep, distinct looks, and something as simple as color palette to weave patterns and materials and all that sort of stuff.
You also had to create a military industrial complex that was a lot more advanced than we've seen before.
Indeed.
Because of final conflict, there's a lot of action sequences there. What were the challenges of kind of creating the military side, the human side?
Yeah, well, that was my co-designer, Ben Proctor. And so we have 2 production designers on the film. I'm in charge of all things Pandora, Na'vi, creatures, environments. He's in charge of all things human, vehicles, and hard sets. And we work very closely. Even though we're in opposition, we're in fun, joking opposition. And he did an absolutely incredible job bringing that to life. And it just keeps escalating with him, where we get to see more Bridgehead, we get to see the amazing factory ship, and we got to up the ante.
All right, my last question is, how fun was it when you see the final shot of the Colonel going on his mushroom trip in your set?
it was fun, but at the same time, I'm like, stop blurring the set. You can't see all the detail. Come on, it looked great. You barely saw it. But no, it was a good time. No, but that was one of my absolute favorite sets because we layered that so deep. Even though it was realized digitally, we did so much practical stuff and research and layering, and it was amazing. It was just like the most lavishly decorated practical set, but we just happened to do it digitally. And so yeah, that was one of my absolute favorite sets. And
All right, so one of the keys, obviously, is creating the fire people.
The
Ash people, fire and ash people. And in turn, what were the challenges of creating that world, to try to ground us in that world before the big battles happened?
Well, to be honest, it's an austere kind of environment, and it's very minimalistic in what you can do from a design standpoint. I think Dillon Cole and Deb Scott did an amazing job of realizing the, sort of when you look to our own references in clans that exist, but with very little clothing, people tend to, adorn their bodies with both paint and scarification and piercing. So that's one of the things they leaned on, and that's ultimately where the design started. Obviously, Varong gets a little extra with her costuming, but because she's such a star. But we did, I think, honestly look at the whole clan as this very bleak but unique tribe that base themselves in something that's, I would say, truly unique on screen.
The Wind Trader sequence, obviously setting it up and paying it off with a fight, was great because there were so many different characters with different paint, different looks. What were the fun characters maybe in creating for that sequence?
See, Paylock was my favorite in that sequence, the leader of the Wind Traders. Okay. And David's face, just something about his face just came through so well, and he emoted so well on screen that he was just one of my favorite characters in the whole movie, actually.
Yeah, Richie loves to talk about this, but there are some characters that you have to fight to get the performance out of, and then there are some characters that just scream right through it when you get them out of the box, and David Toulis was one of those with Paylock. So,
I also love the final battle in the industrial complex. You got the vortex, but also the character. What were the challenges? Any favorite characters from that sequence?
Wow, I mean, it's very hard to say because honestly, Varung just stands out across the board. So it's hard to pick a character above her. So I think that she just was so strong this time, and it was interesting having to start from nothing with her where everybody else was sort of already created. So it was, I think she really stood out for me. But
especially the last moment with Zoe where she loses power. I thought that was very, you could see it in her eyes. Was that something where you had to kind of arc her because she was so strong throughout the whole film, but at the end she wasn't?
Zoe, she has such an emotional roller coaster in that film, and I think we see a lot more from her than we have maybe previously, which is really lovely to see it play off against Varung. It kind of, she had that character to play against, and I think that made a really strong storyline for us to work with, which was amazing.
I have a few. What was your favorite, maybe quieter moment in the movie? Because it's so grand, but we like to sometimes ask questions about what was a character you kind of I like this moment, a little more quiet.
So, some of the simplest of coming out of the rivers, coming out of that up onto the stones just seemed like a good breath of air. It needed a break, and just to come out of the beautiful clean water onto the rocks and wash yourself, and well, that was a big part for me. I really enjoyed that.
All right, so you read the script for the Wind Trader scene. You love it, wow, but what was the biggest initial fear, challenge? How are we going to pull this one off?
The Wind Trader, going back to reading the script initially, it was on Avatar. One of the things that makes it really exciting is when you're introduced to new cultures and new tribes within the Na'vi. And with the Wind Trader culture as well, it was described in the ship as being a large gondola, which is towed by a Medusoid, but there was also the question of how do we add the detail to it and make it look like a Wind Trader owned, what is it about the culture that contributes to this ship? And we're fortunate that we were given a really great handoff package by Dillon Cole and beautiful artwork to work from, and then the lab had sort of done a great proxy model for us, and we had all that to work with, and then Sam and I from Weta were able to spend a lot of time with our crew working on all the detail and really bring it to life. And hopefully we like to think that it's a lot of the detail and the love and care that goes into it that gives it its believability.
Was there any particular moment during that sequence that you're most proud of? Maybe a small character thing, just something like, wow, I'm really proud how we pulled that off.
Ooh, I think just seeing the gondolas initially in the opening scene, it was just amazing seeing it come to life.
And for you, it's great because one of the things I love about Cameron, he lets time for scenes and characters to breathe, locations and breathe. But then you had to have the battle scene. What were the challenges after you have a wonderful setup going to the fight scene?
It's a great question. I mean, we had the entry of the gondola to the Medkaina village at the start where we established the entire gondola itself. And then as the attack happens, that we see different parts of the gondola and different aspects. Yeah, I mean, we get to see everything, so it's fantastic.
One of the challenges too with the battle is we see large parts of it getting burnt and destroyed during the battle, so it was also, we had to build a lot of it twice over to have the intact version and also the destroyed versions as well. And stages along it getting burnt as well, so it was a big job.
Okay, Avatar, you read the script, you love the script, but you got to make the movie. So after loving the script, what was your initial fears, worries, like for each of you, like how are we going to pull this off?
You go first. Oh, I don't know. Nick go first.
For me, reading the script, well, it was two things. It was reading the script, and it was also at the premiere for Avatar 2. I had a conversation with Richie, and this was just coming off the back of Way of Water, and he told me that 3 is at least 5 to 15 times bigger than what we just achieved. So that was a moment of interest and horror in equal measure. But yeah, the other incredibly challenging thing to try and translate from the page was the Flux Devil, which is an elemental plasma vortex. When we work with Jim, everything is deeply grounded in physics, and we try and source as much as possible, but a elemental vortex with gravity inverse, and then you've got a fire tornado and a water tornado, that was incredibly challenging.
Yeah, you had a lot of multiple worlds to take. For you, what was the most challenging world out of? Because you had the wood traders, you had the fire people, you had the industrial complex. For you, what was the most challenging and exciting?
I can't pick one. We give our all to everything, and sometimes the subtlest effects what take the most love. But I did love getting to explore the new ashy worlds that we were able to get into.
The villain is fantastic. And that world, what was a scene or moment that you're really proud of with her?
Oh man, I think it's that first moment where basically they met. It was the kidnapping moment in the woods actually, and they were chasing the kids all the way up to the river basically, and it's just that moment, that intense moment where they're just chasing them through the jungle, and you're seeing all this interaction, you're seeing all this chaos and fire. Everything, and then you have this huge river sequence where all the kids are going down. I mean, it's just incredible. Actually, it gives that sense of like terror, and yeah, it came through.
How about you? What was your favorite Varang scene?
My favorite Varang scene, probably when they were all dancing around the campfire and jumping through, and then you see all the embers and stuff flying up. I thought that was pretty cool. Spinning it's
interesting. So one of the things I love about Avatar, Cameron always starts with character first. And is that for you all of you, I mean, take this one, is it great for you, like, you start with character, then you can build a world around the character instead of sometimes they want to build the world first?
It's all about, with Jim, it's all about character and it's always about narrative, and everything in the shot is for a specific purpose, and you're never supposed to distract from that story. So while we might do an amazing explosion or something that we think looks amazing, if it distracts from the story, we need to take it out. So one thing that Jim really drilled into us was being a filmmaker. And if you're an artist, we're often, behind a computer and you don't feel like you're a filmmaker, but he really drilled that into everyone. So everything is narrative first, character first, and every single thing has a purpose.
All right, so Avatar, you read the script. I'm sure you all love the script, but then there has to be a moment when sinks in, we're going to have to actually make this movie. So for you, what was the initial, like, how are we going to pull this off? Was there any sequence or setting that was most challenging?
Wow. I mean, there's so many sequences. I think the river run for us was a huge one. I think because it was just such an integration between all the effects and the performances, and just with live action plates that were incredibly intricate. It was such a back and forth between all department, and really just kind of highlights all of the collaboration between everybody. So yeah, it's really fun to have those challenges and to try and overcome them.
I would also add that things start many years before, and the challenge of bringing Varang to the screen and living up to all of those established characters and making her such a badass, that began many years ago when we first met Oona. We were working on The Way of Water. John Landau thought it was a good idea for the actors to meet the animators, and we got to meet Oona, and we were so excited to get going with Oona, but it actually took many years before we could even start on the character because she was obviously only in Fire and Ash. And as soon as we got going with her, we were just so excited. What a character to work on. So, she was a big challenge, and I think everyone at Weta did an amazing job with her.
What about the Wind Trader thing? Because that was, to me, you create a whole world, the Wind Traders, beautiful setting, the woman making a family, and then you get to a battle. For you, what was the challenge for that?
Okay, being a fish smuggler, I worked mainly on Varang and Oona, right?
Oh, we'll go back. We'll cut to Varang because we interviewed her. You gotta give her a lot of space. She has to develop as a character. She's really the bit, and also I think one of the most amazing villains I've seen in a long time. For you, what was like developing the character to give her space to breathe before she got the darker scenes where she's battling?
Yeah. So for us, being a fish smuggler, when I saw the design, we knew right away that she's going to be a badass character, right? And her performance is so wild and expressive. It was a really big challenge for us to how can we manage it so that we could capture her expression performance while try to match it with the Navi world, right? But I think with these amazing facial animators and texture artists with all the war paint, I think we did a pretty good job on it. Yeah.
Yeah, the war paint was critical because we had to make her believable and real. How was that process?
Well, we had a bunch of people on set putting a bunch of cold makeup on and then smearing across their face and doing the whole practical thing. And we captured this and translated it to the CG model. But it was the design that started it all. It's very, stark white, red, and black. It really kind of gives you this villainish kind of vibe. But yeah.
It's amazing to see everything come together, and I think you were bringing up the Wind Trader sequence, and I think that's what Jim does really well, is you've got this huge battle that's happening up there, and you've got 50 Ikran in the background, you've got people running on this ship, but you have these moments where you punch in on this beautiful facial model that has this iconic face paint with this facial animation that's all brought together, and it's one of those things where it's just such a harmony of so many departments, and there's thousands of people working on these films, and it's just such a privilege to be a small part of that and to see all of those individual disciplines come together into one, final image on screen, Yeah,
and a painstaking amount of detail goes into this. I mean, Steve mentioned it while we were up on stage, talking about every pixel is kind of inspired by Oona. That's exactly right. All of our animators are looking through every little detail, trying to feel the emotion that we get from Oona and ask the question, are we feeling it on Varang? And sometimes that involves a tiny little eye dart, a tiny little extra squint in the, a little sticking of the unsticking of the lips, maybe a little ear move just to help sell a bit of kind of inner monologue or inner feeling. Every little detail from the neck, the throat, the breathing, the breath, it's all created by an artist that cares passionately about translating that performance onto Varang. And I'm just so proud of the whole team, everyone involved in Varang. Congratulations.